Hi, I'm here today to present my undergraduate thesis on common environmental factors relating to cats that dislike grooming, as well as how to lessen the aversive reactions. So first of all, I just want to speak through my background, if you'd like to go to slide 2. I've been working in the field of cat grooming and cat behaviour for 6 years and noticed an alarming rise in cat aggression during the grooming process. Some owners came to me afraid of their cats, and others were seeking answers to why their cats was responding so aggressively. So this led me to a deep interest in trying to solve the problem. So therefore I wish to develop consultations combining my behaviour knowledge with my grooming knowledge to help clients with challenging cats. Now, one of the major issues is how we work with cats in general. So if you go to slide 3 and click on the video, I'm just going to show you a cat that I was recently working with. Now, in my literature review, I spoke about low stress handling techniques versus restraints, and here we see a cat that was seriously panting on my grooming table through fear. For whatever reason, I'm not sure of her background, and if I was to be using a face muzzle, then I wouldn't have been able to see this cat reacting the way it's reacting now. And basically a panting cat can literally just die immediately on your grooming table, so you have to be very careful of this, and if it starts panting, you have to stop whatever you're doing straight away. So this is one of the reasons why I was discussing restraints and low stress handling, and as you can see in this video, I was using an Elizabethan collar instead, but actually I had to stop whatever I was doing straight away. So okay, so if you'd like to stop the video now and go to slide 4. So all of these things led me to my research question, which is what are the common environmental factors of cats that dislike grooming and how to reduce the aversive reactions. Now, to get an answer to my questions, I needed to look at literature discussing feline-friendly handling, cat aggression, recognising stress in cats and dominance force-based control versus low-stress handling techniques. I also had to look for common factors between all cats that are groomed, and for this I chose participants that were cat owners who had cats that liked being groomed and cat owners who had cats that disliked being groomed, because I thought that would be quite interesting to see the patterns emerging. Look for emerging patterns in data between participants and cross-reference them with data from client case studies. Go on to discuss key themes and explore theories of possible causative factors, and also explore positive changes that may help reduce aversions. And the positive changes very much came out in the case studies, because with these cases I was able to leave clients with instructions on how to groom their cats properly and what kind of modification techniques to try out. So it was really good to see whether things worked and whether they didn't work. So if you'd like to go to slide 5. In my literature review, I concentrated on several main areas. These areas were aggressive responses and what various types could mean. So with the aggressive responses, I guess there's about 3 connected to grooming, which are fear-based, learned aggression, which is when the cat has learned that if it does an aggressive response, then the client will stop whatever they are doing. It could be pain-induced aggression as well. So if a cat has felt pain in the past, then it's going to forever remember that pain as well. I also discussed cats and physical contact, because my findings show that this is one of the main reasons that cats don't like being groomed, is because they hate the feeling of being confined. Some of them really hate the feeling of being held in general, and also a lot of cats don't like to be stroked for long periods of time. So all of these things give the groomer quite a problem to deal with. And I also discussed restraints versus low stress handling techniques, and referring back to my video, that's one of the reasons why I discussed the handling techniques. So if you'd like to go to slide 6. Oops, excuse me. So one of the main theories that I discussed in quite a lot of the sections is a veterinary behaviourist called Dr. Sophia Yin. She works over in America, and she introduced a new way of working with animals in a veterinary situation, which very much involved understanding their natural behaviours and also where the fear might be coming from, and then changing how we worked with the animals. So obviously she was showing these techniques in a veterinary situation, and I'd just like to explain the difference, because in a veterinary situation the procedures are normally quite quick. So therefore in some situations Dr. Sophia Yoon was showing safe handling using various restraints. But when you're working in a grooming situation, the cat will be on your grooming table for at least 2 hours, so these kind of restraints aren't really feasible. So I'm learning more about her low stress handling techniques and other ways to work with animals, and especially introducing positive associations so we can try and change the fear around. So if you'd like to go to slide 7. So my framework, my methodology that I worked within was Kolb's learning cycle, and I consider the work I'm doing action research, so this very much applied to action research. So here we will see concrete experience, reflective observation, making sense of the data, and making changes in practice. So all this can be put into place doing action research. So as a practitioner researcher, I wanted to improve my practice so that it is more effective, and also use my knowledge to influence and improve situations. And this is very much geared towards my behaviour consultations that I want to build upon for next year. So if you'd like to go to slide 8. So my research approach was a mixed method approach, using so that I could use data from various sources, and that would give me a good way to compare different variations of the data as well. I used qualitative data from client case studies and open-ended comment boxes from a questionnaire survey. So the questionnaire survey was done online, in which I targeted Facebook cat loving groups, and also clients that I've worked with in the past. And the reason I needed qualitative data is because this is a very complex area, and I needed to really hear people's stories and events, and because everybody's got a different story and event, and especially with their own cat's individual personalities, and then I could draw common patterns from this data. And I also wanted to see percentages through quantitative approach via a survey questionnaire, and this was done so I could just see how broad the issue was in different areas. I used purposive sampling to target the audience I needed to answer the question, so therefore I particularly targeted cat owners who dislike grooming, cat owners whose cats disliked grooming, and cat owners whose cats liked grooming, and I thought it would be really interesting to compare the data between the two. The questionnaire had 9 variables of dislikes, so this helped me to look more in depth and to understand situations. And what I did with the variables was also cross-tabulate, so that I could check subcategories and their answers, which would give me further insight into their cat's responses. The qualitative data was sifted through manually, so they were all coded, different answers were coded and then all grouped together when I saw emerging themes happening. And for the quantitative data, I used an online data collection website called Smart Survey. So if you'd like to go to slide 9. So my ethical considerations, the questionnaire and case study data had consent forms attached, which gave a thorough explanation of why this research was being done, what I was going to do with the research findings, and also my university email so anybody could ask me any questions. All the participants were assured of confidentiality, and they all remained anonymous, so I never asked for anybody's names, no areas of where they lived or any personal data. The case studies were coded, and all the names, even the cats' names, were deleted. No other personal information was asked for. And I'm very aware, being an insider researcher who has been working in this field for 6 years, that I could have been biased with looking at the data, and I took real care into making sure that the data was represented truthfully. So if you'd like to go to slide 10. So my findings. So there was a lot of data to sift through, but 4 of the common themes that came out of the findings was various degrees of feline aggression. So the majority of cats showed varying levels of aggression during grooming, feline dislike of being picked up or handled for too long, feline dislike of restraint or the feeling of being restrained, and past or continuing negative associations connected to grooming. And the next slides are just going to show you an example of this. So if we go to slide 11, so this is a dislikes table of being picked up and handled. And here you see from the table that the subcategories showing the majority of comments connected to their cat's dislike of being picked up or held. Of course, in hindsight, people were letting me know that the question should have been split into two, which I agree with. However, because I had open-ended comment boxes, a lot of the participants were able to clarify to me the situation, so I still was able to get a very good general idea of whether their cat disliked being picked up or handled. And I think most of them realised that was connected to just being in general rather than grooming. Although I could have been a lot clearer, I must say. So if we go to slide 12, and this is the likes comments to being picked up and handled. And what I found interesting is the likes still showed that a majority of their cats didn't like being picked up, or they only liked being picked up on their own terms. But I think this worked well, because if the cats liked being groomed, then of course they could just choose when to walk away, because the client didn't have to hold them still or restrain them. And on slide 14, when I went deeper into one of the dislike variables for cats that are unmanageable sedation section, here I found lots of comments that could show possible reasons why the cats were in this category. So if we go to slide 14, so the conclusions, my aim was to highlight the common factors amongst cats that dislike grooming, and the findings show that many of the cats in this study do not like to be held for too long. Another common theme was a dislike of being petted, but especially being groomed on various parts of the body. Even when cats liked being touched in certain areas, this did not extend to being groomed in the same areas. Many cats also hate the feeling of being confined without being in control. And another common factor, as I stated earlier, is negative associations connected to grooming. So this could be a single event in a grooming parlour leading to fear or feeling pain or continuous struggling due to discomfort or being confined. And also learned behaviour through aggression, when the cat has learned that if it becomes aggressive, then the owner will stop exactly what they're doing. So if you go to slide 15. So the 5 stages of Gibbs reflective learning can be used to reflect on my research project. There are things in hindsight I would have done differently, but from these I can definitely learn if I have the chance to. And also learning comes from reflection and also from being critical of one's practices. So I will definitely be expanding on this area in my dissertation. And finally, I'd just like to end on my recommendations. My aim is to offer specialised grooming behaviour consultations with long-term support, which could include a behaviour modification plan and teaching the owner how to groom. So all this will be put in place next year. And my recommendations are definitely for owners. I'd like to do consultations in vet practices, give advice to feline care organisations, grooming associations and groomers themselves. Thank you very much for listening. I welcome your questions.